guys, what's going on? It's me, Lilly, and today I would like to inform you about some very disturbing news. And today's story is going to be about food security in Europe, which is actually threatened. Wars, prices, and the European Union. Austria's farmers are sounding the alarm. The Austrian Chamber of Agriculture is currently meeting, and the topic is the tense political global situation, which is putting increasing pressure on farming. The presidents of the Austrian agriculture chambers are protesting against a possible EU subsidy cut and warning of further farm closures. The current global political crisis is a key factor in this. The Chamber of Agriculture reports that Polish cattle farmers are supplying less meat to Iran now. As a result, more beef remains in the EU, driving prices down considerably. I gotta say, as a consumer, I haven't observed a drop in prices in meat yet, but maybe the farmer is getting less. But it's not only just beef that farmers are under pressure. They are also currently receiving less money for milk and pork than they actually need. At the same time, the costs for energy and fertilizer continue to rise, and also gas for the tractor. Rising costs and falling prices. Although farmers' incomes rose last year, the president of the chamber is saying that farmers are in a tense situation. It has never been like this before because we suddenly have such pressure from all areas. The Austrian's top farmers representative is saying that we expect another hot summer, and this is challenging on all levels. In addition to the hot summer, which is resulting in yield losses, there are also numerous crises and war zones around the world, which is making the situation even worse. These changes would affect individual farms and lead to massive cost increases, while the prices that the farmer gets for the food is still remaining at the same price or even falling. The farmers are also far from satisfied with the EU agricultural policy. He fears that farmers could receive up to 20% less money from Brussels in future. So these subsidies are really important for farmers, otherwise they could not exist anymore, because with the opening of the European Union, a lot of the market got flooded with cheaper food from countries where they have different levels of wages, where they have different protections for the workers. They can produce much cheaper, and of course this is getting on the market here, and this is threatening the existence of our native farmers. Also, Europe must not sacrifice food security for increased military buildup. We mustn't let the same thing happen with food as with energy, where we get nervous when Russia turns off the gas tap. We need food independence so that we aren't dependent on others in challenging situations. We would expect the EU Commission to recognize the signs of times, take current developments into account, and focus on a sustainable supply of food, renewable raw materials and energy from Europe. But very often the opposite is the case. If you want to support my channel, the best way to do so is to buy a Odenwolf knife. Odenwolf is a really awesome company. They make high quality knives like this one here for a really good price. And this one happens to be a Scandinavian camping knife. And I really like this knife. I always have it in my car. And if you check out their website, you will find many other great knife models. And with my discount code Lilly10, you will get a 10% discount. So if you want to support my channel, make sure that you check out the affiliate link in the description below. The situation for farmers is getting harder and harder every year. And I remember when I was a kid, Austria was a sovereign country. We were not part of the European Union yet. And I grew up at the countryside in a small village. So a lot of the farmers there, they were growing up on farms, and the children of the farmers who were born after the war, we call them after-war children in German, they were, used to working on a farm, but also they searched for a job. So they were working a normal 40-hour job. And after the work, they came home and they were working on their family farm on the weekends and also on the evenings, basically working all of their lives. And those farms were small-scale farms, so nothing too big. Every farmer had a couple of fields, meadows, very often stable with cows or chicken coops, and also they had a small part of a big forest. So actually it looked a little bit like Hobbit land in Lord of the Rings, where I'm from. Soft hills and nice houses on the countryside. So basically it was great, but then the European Union came and a lot of farmers, they could not compete with the prices, and they said, I don't want to work so much. It's really hard work, right, to work on a farm, but I don't get paid a lot. So then those farmers, a lot of those farmers, the part-time farmers I would say, they quit, and they either sold their equipment and leased out the fields, or they sold the entire fields. Sometimes they stayed in the house but only sold the fields on the back of the house, or they were selling even the forest that they owned and moved into the city. Some people, they got children again, but those are only working 40-hour jobs anymore, and they don't want to work in the forest, so they lease it out to somebody else. So more and more small-scale farmers are giving up, and they are selling or leasing out their land to big commercial farmers, and people are giving up their small-scale farms. And that's really unfortunate. And you basically can only survive with a big-scale farm. And then also you cannot forget that a tractor eats a lot of diesel or gas, so the bill is going to be really high for the farmer. And then fertilizer is also made from petrol, so that's the next thing that the farmers are dealing with. And all of this will lead, of course, to food scarcity. So I also think that the food security is endangered because of this, and first and foremost we need to look after our farmers, and if it takes subsidies, I think that's justified. I think it's justified to subsidy a farmer when they are producing our own food. And also it has to be said that the small scale farmers, they produced food which had a really high quality. So very often, sometimes I get meat from small scale farmers, and they get more money from me because there's no dealer in between which is earning money in between. So for the farmers it's really the best if you purchase the food or the meat directly, and I really think more people should do that, because that would really help out the farmer. Okay, so at the end of the video, because it fits the topic, I want to give you an update on my small veggie garden. Alright, so this is my veggie garden this year. Here I have converted everything to strawberries. You actually need a lot of strawberry bushes to have a decent harvest. Then also here I got some thyme. This is verbena. And in this raised bed I have onions. And some of them are really big. Look at that. So that's great. Also, my tomatoes are doing great this year, but they're a little bit late because it was so cold in springtime. But pretty soon I'm going to cook tomato sauce, which is tasting awesome. At this side I have a couple of herbs. Here I got more tomatoes, different kinds. These are San Marzano. And then the bigger ones here, these are Moneymaker, and they are really great. So there's a lot of tomatoes on here. Also now, this year I'm growing Huang Kui. This is Astragalus, and it's a Chinese medical herb, which is really awesome for the immune system. So pretty soon I'm going to harvest that. And of course, like every year, I'm growing pot marigold. I make my own sauce from this. Then here at the left side we got potatoes and cucumbers. And then in the greenhouse I have more tomatoes. And usually I harvest the tomatoes inside of the greenhouse until November. So it's like 1 month or 6 weeks longer harvest than outside. So this year I will get a really good harvest, and the tomatoes that I'm growing here alone, they are worth at least 800 euros. So if you would purchase the same amount of tomatoes in the store, you have to compare it to organic prices, of course, which is really expensive. Then it's worth like 800 euros. So you can actually save a decent amount of money if you're just growing your own tomatoes. But of course, you need a certain amount of space and a good amount of plants to actually save money. So yeah, this is my small veggie garden. And I gotta say that gardening gives me a lot of joy. It's really great. It's great work, and it's also purposeful. So you're getting something in return. And this is what I really like about it. Alright guys, so this is it for today. I want to thank you for watching and